Hi, everybody. Welcome to the next installment of the U.S. Real Estate News. My name's Jake Fletcher with the Fletcher Group here in Miami, Florida, bringing you the top real estate news stories every single week. And at the end of the broadcast, the top Florida real estate news stories. So let's jump right into it here. First story that I want to talk about today is a very impactful one. JPMorgan, this is coming from floridarealtors.org. JPMorgan is going to spend, at least as of this point in time, $30 billion towards banking's systemic racism. So the bank will spend $30 billion over 5 years to help Black and Latino families become homeowners and boost financing construction for affordable rental housing units. Other banks such as Citigroup, $1 billion, have also announced aid to close the racial wealth gap. So, JPMorgan Chase said Thursday it will extend billions in loans to Black and Latino homebuyers and small business owners in an expanded effort toward fixing what the bank calls systemic racism in the country's economic system. The New York Bank said it's committing $30 billion over the next 5 years towards programs that include earmarking more money for getting Black and Latino families into homeownership and providing additional financing to build affordable rental housing units. Systemic racism is a tragic part of America's history, said JPMorgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon in a statement. We can do more and do better to break down systems that have propagated racism and widespread economic inequality. In the immediate aftermath of the police killing of George Floyd, JPMorgan announced a commitment of $1.7 billion toward programs they said would help address racial inequalities. But since then, as protests have remained constant in some urban centers, there has been a push for banks to do more. Citigroup announced last month that it's committing $1 billion toward closing, quote, the racial wealth gap in the United States, including $550 million towards homeownership programs for racial minorities. I'm kind of chuckling there because to think that $1 billion is going to close the racial wealth gap in the United States is just, I mean, don't get me wrong, $1 billion is a lot of money, and that's very significant. And furthermore, $30 billion is even more significant. But I'll jump in on a little bit of my opinion here before I finish the article. So I think this is a mixed bag, okay? I love that they're doing this. I love that they're putting their money where their mouth is. I think we need to continue to expect and push banks and other large, corporations to do their part in not just, kind of these nominal adjustments like racial sensitivity training and, those kind of things, but also in putting their money where their mouth is and to helping to fix the problem. Now, is this going to actually fix the problem? Of course, it's not going to fix the problem, but it's going to definitely provide a lot of opportunities for people who otherwise may not have had those opportunities. So I have more thoughts. Let's continue on. JPMorgan, which has $3.2 trillion in assets, said it expects the $30 billion to help refinance 40,000 additional mortgages for Black and Latino households, another 20,000 loans that will refinance mortgages, and help construct 100,000 affordable rental units. Additional funds will go to finance 15,000 small business loans to Black and Latino-owned businesses. There will also be programs to place 1 million customers in low-cost checking and savings accounts, partly by opening new branches in minority-majority neighborhoods. Black households are several times more likely to be what is known as unbanked, meaning they do not have a primary checking account with a traditional bank, or underbanked, where households still rely on high-cost financial services like check cashing, pawn shops, and payday loans. American banking still has a long way to go to fix these problems of the past. Banks large and small are still regularly cited for discriminatory practices, including allegations of redlining Black homebuyers. Redlining is a practice in which banks deny or avoid providing credit services to consumers because of racial demographics or the neighborhood where they live. Ed Golding, the executive director of the MIT Golub Center for Finance Policy, said JP Morgan's investment is impressive, but narrowing the gap requires more fundamental changes to the financial system. He noted that there's a 30% gap between Black and white homeownership, amounting to about 4.5 million households. JP Morgan's investment would go to a fraction of those. We are not going to do it overnight, said Golding, who served as the head of the FHA under Obama administration. Quote, I applaud the energy and the direction, but it's going to take a massive government policy changes to really move the needle and make up for hundreds of years of systemic racism. So I think he's right about that. According to a recent study that Golding co-authored, African Americans on average pay higher mortgage interest payments, insurance premiums, and property taxes than white families, adding an average of $67,320 to their homeownership costs. That's incredible. The study said black families are disadvantaged by a risk-based pricing system, which charges higher mortgage rates for lower down payment and credit scores. Golding called for a system that would pool risk among borrowers. So I don't know if the pooling of the risk is the way to go, but definitely we got to do something, because adding an average of over $67,000 to the loan costs of African Americans is just absolutely unacceptable. I mean, so these are individuals who, they could be buying the same type of housing in the same type of neighborhood, in the same, everything as a white family, but because they're an African American or black family or Latino family, they're going to get a higher interest rate and have higher insurance premiums and higher property taxes. Now, I think that's just terrible. I think it's horrible this is kind of the same mentality that our society has towards things like misogyny and paying women, 67 cents on the dollar to what men make and things like that. It's this sort of ingrained assumption that certain participants in our economy have to be treated a different way from other people. And it's wrong. It's totally wrong. So continuing on, the Black Lives Matter protests have pushed dozens of companies to announce initiatives and policies to fight racial inequities, from pledges to bring more African Americans into leadership roles to new investments intended to promote black-owned businesses. JPMorgan was one of 27 major New York-based companies that joined a program to recruit 100,000 workers from the city's low-income, predominantly black, Latino, and Asian communities over the next 10 years. MasterCard announced a $500 million investment last month in black communities, including providing black-owned businesses access to affordable capital. IBM is investing $100 million in technology education at historically black universities. This is all great, right? Stephanie Curry, an assistant professor of management at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, said many of the programs appear promising because they're strategically targeted. Quote, "That's when I get excited, is when it's targeted towards something very concrete and that they're not just throwing money at the problem and hoping that people on the other side will figure out what to do with it." That's also a great point from Curry, who researches diversity and inclusion issues. But she said the question remains whether companies will continue investing in majority communities at this scale beyond this year. We've never seen this type of corporate responses before, and it feels a little hard to trust that it's going to be long-term. Curry said it feels like a window of opportunity, and right now corporations are paying attention, but one would hope that it becomes an annual moment. So I think that the point that they made up yonder. The Black Lives Matter protests pushed dozens of companies to announce initiatives and policies to fight racial inequities, from pledges to bring more African Americans into leadership roles to new investments intended to promote black-owned businesses. So I think this is one of the key factors here, right? So we need to have better representation in leadership roles of our population. So more African Americans in leadership roles. I also think there should be more Latinos, more women, more of a representative, more of a mix that is representative of our population, right? So I think that's, super important, obviously. And then I also think that this is a great point where she says it feels like a window of opportunity. Right now, corporations are paying attention, but one would hope it becomes an annual moment. So there is definitely a little fear I have that this could potentially be like it's the cool thing to do right now. So let's, throw some money at, racial inequality, and hopefully people will be like, oh, let's go start banking at JPMorgan Chase now because they align with the values that are most commonly had in the 21st century. I think that I think it's a little bit of opportunism on their part, but I'm not going to knock it because, hey, they're putting their money down, and there's a lot more money than I have to put down. So I think that it's great, and I hope it continues. So. Coming from Realtor Magazine, the top 10 cities for first-time buyers in 2020. Millennials are reportedly accelerating their home buying timelines due to the COVID-19 pandemic, according to a new survey by Realtor.com and HarrisX of 2,000 buyers. So pretty significant population there. Low mortgage rates and more available savings for a down payment accumulated during stay-at-home periods earlier this year to fight the pandemic have unleashed a wave of buyers the real estate market has long been waiting for. But which cities offer the best prospects for first-time buyers in 2020? SmartAss had a personal finance website compared 185 of the largest cities in the U.S. on 12 metrics, including home market favorability, price-to-rent ratio, 5-year home value appreciation and foreclosure rate, affordability, under 45 home ownership rate, down payment to income ratio, housing costs, employment livability, and more. The following are the top cities for first-time home buyers in 2020, according to the analysis. So here we go. Grand Rapids, Michigan coming in at number 1, followed by Henderson, Nevada, Virginia Beach, Virginia, Boise, Idaho, Fort Wayne, Indiana at number 5, St. Petersburg, Florida at number 6, Omaha, Nebraska at number 7, Garland, Texas at number 8, Gilbert, Arizona, number 9, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota at number 10. So, St. Petersburg, Florida, represent. I love St. Pete. I do think that's a great area to buy. If you're looking to buy in that area, let me know. I know a lot of great realtors over there I can hook you up with. And all these other places too. I mean, most of these places I've never been to. I've been to all the states, but I don't know if I've been to South Dakota. I think I've driven through. But either way, I think that this is, kind of like a little bit of like that situation where they're like offering you a great deal for something that you don't really want it, but you start to think, well, that's a really great deal, 2 for 1 on these jeans, but I don't really wear those type of jeans, but it's such a good deal, I might go pick them up. Is that going to be the same scenario we have here where people are like, I was going to, move to New York City, but Grand Rapids, Michigan's number 1 on the, the millennial affordability list. So I don't think that it's going to be, I don't think that the fact that these are like the top 10 cities is going to be what drives people to those markets. I think the people who are buying are generally buying in a market where they know they want to be. It's not too often that people move somewhere outside of their region or, outside of their city just because it's affordable. It does happen, of course. But I think that it's important to see where these trends are going because it tells us other information as well. Like, hey, if this town is so affordable to live in, then, probably there's going to be a lot of investors buying in that area coming up, which means that, hey, maybe they're on the upswing of an expansion in the real estate cycle, so on and so forth. So we'll have to see. But just for fun, I thought it'd be cool to see, what are the other cities on that list, right? So here you go. You got a lot of Arizona and a lot of Texas and a lot of Colorado. Interestingly enough, there's a Sunnyvale, California is number 25. But yeah, I mean, this list is like, you got Arizona, Texas, Colorado, there's some Washington, but mostly you're looking at Texas, Colorado, and Arizona. So I don't know how Denver is on this list. I mean, Denver, I've looked at their real estate prices and I thought they were a little overpriced. But hey, you got Denver, Fort Collins, you've got Aurora, Lakewood, Colorado Springs. Those are all great places to live. So good for those people. Coming to us from National Association of Realtors magazine, Rich Americans Recover Wealth Amid COVID-19, Target Real Estate. So the wealthiest Americans they've recovered from COVID, not having the disease, but financially, and they're targeting real estate as a sector for investment. So the net worth of the wealthiest Americans increased significantly in the 5 months ending in August, and many of them are investing their gains in real estate, according to a new report from research firm WealthX. The stock market boom is helping wealthy individuals to recover their wealth after the pandemic outbreak this spring took a sudden, grim hold on the economy. But the richest Americans, those whose net worth of at least $30 million, have recovered most of their pre-pandemic wealth In North America, the number of individuals in that bracket increased 28% to 104,440. Unlike in typical recessions, the bulk of the damage to wealth holdings from the pandemic will most likely have been front-loaded, meaning it happened at the beginning, as the global economy rebounded in the second and third quarters of 2020 from its temporary cessation of activity, helped by extensive stimulus and support programs. There was a broad bounce back in financial markets and renewed opportunities for wealth creation. About 36% of the world's ultra-high net worth population are North Americans. As the wealthy feel wealthier, that has translated to upticks in the luxury housing market. The luxury housing sector is just simply taking off, Lawrence Yun, chief economist of the National Association of Realtors, said recently while presenting the latest existing home sales numbers. Larger and pricier homes are in demand as wealthy buyers seek more space to work from home and bigger houses to accommodate their remote learning children. Quote, the luxury market is leading the recovery, Danielle Hale, Realtor.com's chief economist, said at the end of June. Second home markets are growing in appeal among luxury buyers. 3 of the 5 markets with the largest increases in viewed listings in May were second home markets like Suffolk County, New York, home to the Hamptons, Palm Springs in Riverside County, California, and Greenwich in Fairfield County, Connecticut, according to Realtor.com. As wealthy Americans eye exclusive resort communities during the pandemic, they have retirement in mind as well. We are seeing, quote, we are seeing greater sales gains in more expensive properties in areas people consider to be retirement destinations and resorts. I think the new economy and working from home can also mean working from a vacation home. That is a larger home with more elbow room. That is in more of a vacation destination. Coming from Lawrence Yun again. In July, home sales in resort areas jumped nearly 29% compared to a year ago, according to NAR data. For example, Aspen, Colorado has seen home sales surge, particularly those above $5 million. Inventory is flying off the shelf. Jonathan Miller, a real estate appraiser with Miller Samuel, told CBS News of the 800% increase in signed contracts for homes in Aspen. So great for them. They're doing great. I hope the same will happen for all sectors of the economy. So we'll see. We'll see. Coming from Florida Realtors here, this is a national story. Really, it's actually an international story, I believe, but talking about Airbnb. So from FloridaRealtors.org, all Airbnb sites must now adhere to a mask rule. Airbnb's existing Enhanced Clean program will become the standard in part because internal data found that listings under the program have 3 times more bookings. Airbnb hosts and guests are now required to adhere to mandatory mask, social distancing, and cleanliness guidelines amid the coronavirus pandemic. According to an announcement from the short-term rental program, hosts and guests must now wear masks and practice social distancing while interacting with one another, and by November 20th, homes need to implement the company's 5-step cleaning process. Airbnb's Enhanced Clean program was developed in conjunction with health experts and includes 5-step cleaning procedure as well as social distancing guidelines. The steps are to prepare for safer cleaning, clean dust and debris, sanitize with disinfectant, check frequently touched surfaces, and reset the room. Of note, side note, I would hope they would have been doing, all that stuff before, but I guess not. Of note, the Enhanced Clean guidance had been only recommended. Still, hosts need to follow local government and health authority guidance. This new mandate applies worldwide except for mainland China, which has its own local health and safety programs. The company encourages users to contact community support if they run into any problems. Hosts will be prompted to commit to these guidelines beginning next week when logging into their Airbnb accounts. They have until November 20th or could be subject to warning, suspension, or even removal from the site. Guests must agree to the guidelines when booking listings. The company has approved nearly 1.5 million listings as meeting its enhanced cleaning standards since the program began in June. Airbnb previously issued health and safety guidelines regarding wearing a mask and social distancing in line with WHO and CDC and prevention guidance, control and prevention guidance. Internal Airbnb data shows that listings enrolled in its enhanced cleaning program have 3 times more bookings on average than those not in the program. Makes sense. I would want to book a room that was going to be more clean as well, wouldn't you? Short-term rental services like Airbnb have bounced back faster than hotels in terms of popularity during the pandemic, thanks to their remote, distanced getaways. So I think this makes a lot of sense personally. Because hotels, you have a lot more people going through. There's a lot more risk involved because of that. And with Airbnb, usually you can book a whole place to yourself and not be around other people if you don't want to. So it's a very, it starts from a safer point, right? So I think that's one reason why. But these sites have other matters to worry about, like a potential Halloween party weekend. So Airbnb is prohibiting guests from booking one-night stays at entire homes on October 30th and October 31st in the U.S. and Canada in an attempt to stop parties and aid public health efforts against mass gatherings out of concern they may spread coronavirus. I mean, I think that's a great idea. I'm glad that they're doing their part. They obviously see themselves as being a company that subsists in the long run and therefore are continuing to put the trust factor first and foremost between them and their clients. And the users of their site, both the owners of homes and the people renting them. So I think that's a really smart move by Airbnb, and I think that we'll probably end up seeing other short-term rental programs or companies doing something similar. All right, moving on to Florida real estate news. This is coming from fox4now.com. This is a local Fox News affiliate in Florida here, so Lee County, Florida. Don't be surprised if you start noticing for sale signs popping up at warehouses all over Southwest Florida. Realtors say it's to meet the growing demand for online sales. Real estate appraiser Gerald Hendry says more stores closing during the pandemic means more online shopping. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's not necessarily, causation, but it definitely is a correlation, I would say. It makes sense that it would be. Quote, we were already going to more activity in the grocery/delivery type business that was already happening, but it really took off. It really accelerated through this COVID period, he said. He said that also means an uptick in industrial real estate sales. Data from his firm shows this year Southwest Florida saw more industrial sales in June and July compared to last year. What's selling even more? Spaces with freezers. In late March, we kind of had a run on food, particularly meats. I think the suppliers of that have recognized that, and we don't want to see that again. Said Hendry, not doing so hot, office spaces. So this is something I've been talking about for a second now. Quote, as a whole, we're going to have less need for office space. More people are going to be working from home, but on the flip side, those that do work are going to demand a bigger area to work with. Florida Gulf Coast University finance professor Tom Smitha says that not all commercial business is booming. Quote, generally speaking, commercial real estate is not doing well and will probably continue to underperform going forward, as we've said in past episodes. He's talking about retailers closing many stores like Gap and Pier 1, but even with the shift to online sales, that could mean job descriptions shifting from sales associates to shoppers, stockers, and delivery drivers. Overall, jobs will probably be similar numbers, but we're probably going to see transitions into what those jobs look like, said Smythe, whatever his name is pronounced as. Sorry, buddy. He added the shift in jobs doesn't necessarily mean an upgrade for employees, and I would say probably definitely not going to be an upgrade. Many warehouse jobs may still be minimum wage, and there could even be a loss in jobs, but it's still too early to tell. So I think with more jobs going into these shoppers, stalkers, delivery driver positions, a lot of these are like in the gig economy sector, which usually means, no healthcare, no benefits, no paid family leave, things like that. You don't have any benefits. You're just a gig worker. So I think that's going to continue. I think that gig economy is going to keep growing. I think it's going to continue to be tough for the average everyday individual. So from the MiamiHerald.com, South Florida's luxury market is rebounding. The majority of buyers are paying cash. So more information about how well luxury buyers and wealthy people are doing. Lockdown paralysis ended with a roar as luxury home buyers fled taxes elsewhere, creating a third quarter surge in South Florida. After a whopping 55.6% drop in year-over-year luxury sales in the second quarter, third quarter sales of existing homes skyrocketed by 65.2% for single-family houses and by 18.2% for condos, when compared with the same period in 2020, according to the latest Kai's Luxury South Florida Market Report. The firm based its findings on data from the multiple listing service for residential sales priced over $1 million across Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade, and Martin counties. The opening, quote, the opening after the shutdown created a surge of pent-up demand that exploded the luxury market. What happened is that the shutdown accelerated the decision-making of everyone that was thinking they wanted a bigger home or a Florida home. When they were given the chance, they jumped on it, said Mike Pappas, the CEO and president of the Kai's company. Buyers, both full-time and second homeowners, are coming from New Jersey, Connecticut, California, New York, and California again. Many are part of the tax flight set off by the SALT deduction, Papa said. For the real estate market in general to V-shaped recovery, Papa said, it looks like it might resemble a Nike check mark recovery. The sales activity is diminishing luxury inventory. As of September 2020, Miami-Dade and Broward have 8 months supply of single-family homes, a dramatic decrease over the 21-month supply of September 2019. Both existing and new residents have flocked to single-family homes amid the pandemic, seeking less density and open space. In terms of condos, the two counties together have 30 months of supply now versus 44 months during the third quarter of 2019. The real estate market has never been as hot as it is today. Home has taken on a different meaning due to COVID. It's taken on a more important role. You're going to school there. You're working there, Papa said. We've always been a safe haven since George Merrick was promoting Coral Gables as City Beautiful. South Florida has had a charisma and charm that appealed to the world. In Miami-Dade, single-family luxury home sales increased by 48.3% year-over-year from $292 to $433. The median sales price rose by 8.6% from $1.612 million to $1.75 million. The number of all-cash buyers more than doubled from a total of 82 to 174 in the third quarter 2020. Buyers are gravitating to Coral Gables and Miami Beach, Papa said. Condo sales rose by 5.9% from 202 to 214 in the third quarter of 2020. The median sales prices climbed by 7.8% from $1.6 million to $1.725 million. The number of all-cash buyers increased from 123 to 128. For condo buyers, the hot spots were Aventura, Brickell, Coconut Grove, and Miami Beach, Papa said. So real quick, I mean, you know, as far as the cash buyers here, so the number of cash buyers doubled in the third quarter. So I think that's especially interesting considering that jumbo loans were frozen for this whole second quarter almost. I think they were pretty much frozen for the entire second quarter. So, you know, it kind of makes sense that more people were like, okay, well, you know, if we can't get a jumbo loan, we could always just pay cash. So I think that some of them, you know, maybe they started their transactions in Q2 and they ended in Q3, and that's part of why they doubled. The number of cash buyers doubled there. But I think that's an interesting thing there to note. So, yeah, we'll just read the last little part there. So for Broward, number of single-family home sales grew by 67.4 from the third quarter of 2019 to 2020, from 193 to 323. Median sales price rose from 8% to from 1.733 to 1.871 million. Number of all-cash buyers rose by 56% year-over-year from 82 to 128. So not quite doubled, but still a huge rise. House hunters are primarily searching Las Olas, Rio Vista, Pompano, and Weston, Papa said. So, yeah, condo sales increased by 27.7%. Median sales price decreased by 1.8%, a minimal drop. And the number of all-cash deals grew by 32.3%. So, pretty good numbers there for people in the luxury markets in South Florida. So, the next story here coming from mynews13.com. Tourism is waning, but construction is booming in Central Florida. So this is from Sanford, Florida. Thousands of workers in Central Florida, primarily at the theme parks, have lost their jobs in recent weeks. I think it was like 28,000 people were fired just from Disney alone. I don't think that was all South Florida. I think that includes California as well, but a lot of people. So While the tourism industry in Central Florida is struggling, another is booming, and more importantly, hiring. So part of the reason I'm doing this story is if you were in that layoff grouping, then here's a job opportunity for you. So what you need to know: in the past 6 months, 2,300 recently built homes have sold in Orange and Seminole counties. More than 500 people signed up for a Thursday job fair with 84 Lumber in Sanford. The company has hired about 600 new employees since the COVID-19 pandemic began. People are building new homes because the existing inventory of the current inventory of existing homes is so low. So builders are taking that as a sign that they need to start building more new home inventory, a metric that recently, before COVID and kind of at the beginning of COVID, had dipped, and now it's spiking to get more inventory. So in the last 6 months, more than 2,300 homes built in 2019 have sold in Orange and Seminole counties. New development is still happening, and some companies are hiring to keep up with the demand. Housing market and job market in Central Florida couldn't be more opposite right now. The Sanford 84 Lumber can't keep up with the demand from builders, but for cleaning company owner Nehemiah Overstreet, the work has been hard to come by. Oh man, quote, "Oh man, I took a huge hit," Overstreet said. "I own a cleaning service, and I thought with the pandemic I could capitalize on it, but has been totally different." So Nehemiah is one of more than 500 people who registered for a job fair with 84 Lumber Thursday. The company operates in an industry that, unlike others, is thriving during the pandemic, even though lumber costs have increased, right? As we talked about last week. New construction is probably up 17% over year, as well as in the last 90 days, said 84 Lumber Southeast Division Vice President Rob Woodrow. The company, which sells materials to help build a house from the ground up, is willing to invest in people like Overstreet, who is hoping he can develop his skills for a new career path. They are willing to train, and they have a lot of opportunities to grow and rise up in a company, Overstreet said while applying at the Sanford location. "That is what I'm looking for, instead of being stagnant and stuck in a position." So, interesting. According to real estate agent Terry Mathias, the supply and demand of home for sale in the past summer is such that new builds are able to cash in. "There's such low inventory," Mathias said. "There is more demand than there is supply, so new construction is flourishing, and a lot of builders are working more due to the low inventory. In a competitive job market, others who may not have background or expertise are willing to remodel themselves to do what they need to do to get by." Quote, "It's necessary, very, very necessary," Overstreet said. "What I'm doing currently is not paying the bills that I thought it would be, so you have to look at different avenues and make in different markets." So important that, there's a lot of people probably in that same boat, right? And companies are out there looking to fill the jobs with people like Nehemiah. Quote, "We can teach every aspect of the industry, so nobody has to have any experience," Woodrow said. According to information from 84 Lumber, the average turnout for one of their job fairs is around 100, and they had that many applicants before lunch Thursday. The company has also hired nearly 600 new employees since the pandemic began. Next Friday, American Builders Supply will also be hosting a job fair from 9 a.m. to noon in their Winter Haven location, and they're looking to hire about 20 people. So important information if you're looking for a job in the Winter Haven area or, the greater Orlando area, then maybe go check them out next Friday. This story was from October 8th, so that should be, coming up this week, this coming Friday for you. Last story of the day. Universal Orlando launches search for developer to build affordable apartments on 20 acres it donated. So this is a fun, interesting story. Universal Orlando on Friday announced a nationwide search for a developer to design, build, and operate affordable apartments on land donated by the theme park giant in an attempt to help address the region's deepening housing crisis. Universal pledged back in December, on the eve of a crucial Orange County Commission vote involving its new theme park, Epic Universe, to give 20 acres of land to build 1,000 affordable housing units. The development will be along Destination Parkway, just east of the Orange County Convention Center, on land that Orange County property appraiser values at $9.5 million. The land will be donated to a not-for-profit set up by Universal. Quote, "The need for affordable housing in Central Florida is strong and our vision is clear," John Sproul's, Universal Orlando's chief executive officer, said in a news release. Quote, "We will make land available for affordable housing. We will bring the right partners to the project, and we will set a high standard for the new community we create." So interesting, that we see in the news a lot of big corporations throwing money around trying to help out, so I think that's admirable. Continuing on. The apartment's Universal spokesman Tom Schroeder said, will be open to anyone who qualifies, not just Universal employees. He said the goal is to create an affordable rent structure that's in line with the 10-year housing plan the county's Housing for All task force completed last year. That plan called for the county to invest $160 million in housing projects and add 30,000 affordable units over the next decade, in part by loosening zoning regulations and giving bonuses to developers who build neighborhoods most in need of housing. Documents being provided to interested developers. Universal expects dozens to respond by a November 2nd deadline. Only give vague details about what the apartments might look like, but mentions including space for businesses, amenities, and security system and transportation activities. In December, Universal also said it would set aside 3 acres for mass transit, but hasn't offered any specifics. The company hopes to select a developer by early next year and plans to break ground by late 2021 and start leasing at the end of 2022. The developer will be responsible for putting together a financing plan. Universal also is working on an agreement with the county, and Schroeder said Universal will cover the cost of creating the development plan. Universal said it wants to make sure the apartments are kept affordable forever, but how much the rent will be hasn't been decided, which makes sense because they haven't even planned them out yet. Overseeing the process through an initiative Universal is calling Housing for Tomorrow will be Terry Prather, I'm going with, former SeaWorld president and chief operating officer for the nonprofit Lift Orlando, who also co-chaired the county's housing task force. Also included are Maria Triscari, president of the International Drive Resort Area Chamber of Commerce, Rhonda Rhodes, vice president of Human Resources Universal. Okay, cool, we get it. Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings, in a release, said he was thrilled that Universal has stepped up to the plate. When Universal initially announced its plan to donate the land, some residents were suspicious of the timing because just 24 hours later, Demings and commissioners were to decide whether to give the company $125 million in tax money to help pay for a new road for Epic Universe. So I can see why they might be a little suspicious, right? Well, we got this, $10 million land over here we could give you if you can hook us up with $125 million, taxpayer money to pay for our road to our amusement park. Sprouse assured the announcement was unrelated. Trust me, guys, unrelated, saying Universal had always tried to be aware of and sensitive to the needs of the community, and the land donation had been underway. So, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you if you believe that one. Doesn't mean it's not still a good thing and stuff. Just, come on. Opponents of the road deal, which will cost $305 million overall, with Universal paying the rest, were skeptical because Universal had been lobbying hard to promote the need for the 1.7 mile long road. Bro, what? How does a 1.7 mile road cost $305 million? I mean, I know roads are expensive, but god damn. It also sought to temper criticism from the theme park workers who rallied by the union Unite Here, and progressive activist group Organized Florida said Universal had plenty of money to pay for the road. Comcast Corp, Universal's parent, turned a profit of more than $11.7 billion in 2018 as profit. Most of the money for the county's $125 million came from the special taxing district near International Drive that generally prevents property taxes generated by it from going to projects in other parts of the county. Instead, the taxes are supposed to be only spent on transportation improvements that benefit that area. Although the Sentinel pointed out, commissioners are allowed to put unspent money into the general fund. Ultimately, commissioners narrowly approved the deal 4-3 after a marathon meeting. Now, because of the coronavirus outbreak and government shutdowns to curtail infections, Universal's finances have taken a beating. During the months the theme parks were closed, revenue fell 94%. Boo-hoo. So sad that your Universal theme park isn't making as much money when over 215,000 Americans have died. So, but hey, I mean, they're a big employer here in our country, and I hope that they do well so that their employees can do well. But do I think that they probably had the $305 million to do the road and maybe they didn't need taxpayer money? Probably. Would they have given that land after they were denied the $125 million, they probably wouldn't have been, given away that land. No. And also too, is it right for people who live in that area that pay their taxes for the unspent funds of their property taxes to be going towards building a road that benefits a private corporation? I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with a big no. There's a lot of talk about, about socialism in our country. People think that, if people have health care, that would be socialism. But nobody bats an eye at the government giving away your hard-earned tax money to Universal to help them build a road to their park, right? So no social services for the average everyday person, but hey, Universal needs a road, so instead of your property taxes going down, or instead of new services to help taxpayers out, we're just gonna write a check for Universal and enjoy the parks, guys. So I think that's wrong. Do I think it's cool that they're gonna be putting some more affordable housing in? Yeah, that's cool. Is it surprising that it's not for their employees? Absolutely not, because they probably don't want it for their employees, because that's 1,000 households that can be regular season pass holders, right? So not surprising at all, but it's still interesting nonetheless. We'll have to keep an eye on this story. That's it for U.S. real estate news this week, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and ring the bell so that you're notified of whenever I come out with new videos. I do U.S. real estate news, Florida real estate news on these broadcasts. And then on my channel in general, I do all kinds of other videos. And make sure to check out the Fletcher Show, Jake Fletcher Show podcast. It's every second and fourth Wednesday of the month. So we got one coming up this Wednesday, and you guys are going to enjoy it. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Follow me on IG at jake.miami, and I'll see you guys next time. Sell smart, buy bold. Fletcher Group, I'm out. Peace.